Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got 4 replays in the Eastern Alliance Era 2 Tech Tree medium tank, the TR-580. Now if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the TR-580, it is the entry Era 2 for this Tech Tree branch with the new vehicles that are being added. Currently it only leads, or should I say, currently as of me recording this video, it only leads to the TR-85 and the TR-125, but after the update, which should be on the day I release this video, which will be Tuesday, it leads to the T-72M, and obviously the TR-85, which will lead on to Era 3 through the TR-85M1, but you lead on to the other branch from this tank too, with the T-55AM, the T-72M2, the PT-91, etc, etc. So this is the branch tank. This is the tank where you're going to decide whether you want to go to the T-72M or go to the TR-85. Now, it's going to be down to personal preference. We'll see how it goes, because obviously at this point I haven't played the T-72M and the other vehicles, but I have played the TR-85 and the TR-125, and I'm not their biggest fans. So, you never know, I'd probably end up suggesting to go to the T-72M and try that new version of the branch, but at the same time I can't say that without having played them yet, right? And by the time you get to the video on Wednesday, hopefully I will have played the T-72M at least. But yeah, the TR-580, this tank has been exceptionally hit and miss. Yep, exceptionally hit and miss. I either do 1,000 damage and die in the first minute or two from ATGMs, Weasels, any kind of YOLO tank generally, or any MBT to be honest, because they all absolutely shred this thing. And yeah, it goes pretty badly. Or it goes pretty okay. And we have a pretty decent game. I mean, the ace requirements for this tank are exceptionally low, which is not surprising because the tank is really not that great, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's not the best grind in the universe, which is why I also suggest probably not going for the TR-85 and the 125, because they are also pretty not nice. They're more of the same thing. You play the TR-85, you feel like you're just playing a slightly upgraded version of this tank. But your matchmaking gets slightly worse because you moved up technically a tier within the era, right? Which means you get matched up more against the mid-era tanks. And then you get to the TR-125, which is the heavy tank in the branch, and it's still not that great. And then you're starting to get matched up against more of the top-tier vehicles in general. And you sit there going, ugh, right? This vehicle at least gets matched up against more tanks that really do struggle alongside it, like the Centurion 9, like the T-62, for example. Because that is one thing that is always the case with these entry-era vehicles, is they're kind of just a bit cannon foddery. And they are tanks that you just say, get past it, get to the better tanks in the future, because all the other tanks are basically just upgraded versions of these and play way better and way nicer, and you don't feel like you're getting slapped around all the time. Pretty much, summed up in a nutshell. So this tank, this first replay, you are seeing me completely stock, and that means we've got a 54 km/h top speed, 20 km/h reverse speed, 13.81 horsepower per ton ratio. We've got a 5.9 second reload, which is 4.4, nearly 4.5k DPM, with 0.29 accuracy at 100 meters, means that we are actually pretty accurate. And the gun on this tank does feel okay. This is one of the things that is quite nice about the tank. 1.46 accuracy during movement, with 0.73 accuracy during rotation, means the aim circle doesn't bloom out that much at all. And with a 1.99 second aim time, it does aim in pretty quickly. You've got 376 penetration on the standard APFS DS round, with 419 premium penetration on the APFS DS round that's the premium round. You've got 135 penetration on the HE round with the 580 damage, which can be quite handy against some of the lightly armoured vehicles like a Bagel Panzer that you saw in this first replay, and an Object 120, which we just penned for 629. Can be pretty handy for all that too. You do have 1430 meters a second shell velocity on the standard APFS DS, with 1475 penetration on the premium APFS DS as well, which means the shell velocity is also pretty good on this vehicle. You do have 5 degrees of gun depression on this tank though, which is very limiting, and just like all the other 5 degrees of gun depression tanks, it means that you are fairly limited in the positions that you can take in it, which can make this tank feel awkward to play at times compared to a lot of tanks that obviously have about 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 degrees of gun depression in Era 2. So, this first game you're seeing here is about to end pretty nastily. It's like, hello, Mr. Object 120, I'm so sorry, he didn't hit my gun barrel. And he finishes us off because he's got good penetration. But we finished it with a really good total for the very first game I played in it. That was the very first game I played in it. With the Ace Tanker, the High Caliber, the 1555 base XP, a really nice game there for the TR-580 that was completely stock in the very first game. Because what I always do with these Cold War tanks is that I'll always skip the first bits of the grind, essentially, which is literally the first 1000 XP. Because for some reason, they still lock the equipment, the 4th equipment slot, behind 1000 XP, which is mental. But so I always skip that, and then I play the tank so I can get at least 4 pieces of equipment on it. And yeah, it was a really great game, which set me up and put me in a false sense of security, to be perfectly honest, because I was like, oh, that wasn't bad for an entry area tank. You know, I quite enjoyed that. And it kind of went downhill from there, to be fair. We still had some nice games, but like I say, the games were extremely hit and miss, which is what you're going to see in these replays. I think I only had 1 or 2 games where I did about 4k or 5k. It was mostly me getting 2 shots off and dying because I just got absolutely swamped, or being left alone for long enough to be able to actually farm up. And when it gets left to farm up, it's pretty nice because the DPM isn't too bad, the gun handling's pretty good, the standard penetration at 376 really isn't that nice, to be fair, but you've got 419 premium penetration on that APFSDS round, which can be really useful, and that means that you can pen stuff that you do struggle to pen with your standard round. It's not like some of the other Soviet-esque vehicles that have heat on the premium, and they sit there going, well, my standard is 370 or 380, and that's all I have. And you sit there going, okay, you know? So there's lots of things that can make this tank feel nice. It's just the fact that if you get stuck into a brawl, or what happens quite often in Era 2, where there's a lot of YOLO rushing and a lot of brawling in a YOLO rush fashion, and things decide you're going to die, this thing dies because it has basically no armor, and it gets penned really easily. Occasionally, because of angles, you do ricochet shots, and you can side scrape a little bit in it, which can increase your chances of blocking shots, especially in little town fights. But generally, it just goes downhill as soon as things decide you're dead, and ATGMs go straight through you every single time, and because of having 5 degrees gun depression, it can also be pretty awkward as well. It is fairly mobile though, and in this second replay, you are seeing us as a tank that is now basically fully upgraded in all but the gun. And now we've got 65.2 km/h top speed, so we've got much quicker than we were previously. 24 km/h reverse speed, which is pretty nice. 19.3 horsepower per ton ratio means we do get up to that top speed pretty easily as well. We've got 48 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed, which is supremely quick compared to the turret rotation speed at 39.8. So it's about, what, 8 to 9 degrees a second faster on the tracks than it is on the turret, which, you know, can be a bit frustrating. You also have 503 meters of view range, which is pretty good, meaning you can spot for yourself quite easily in this tank too. But yeah, you're seeing just there, as soon as anything decides they're going to go through you, even the weasels, they'll go through your front, your rear, your side, and you sit there going, oh, my armor, please, please stop, stop. You know, and that's what the TR-580 is like, to be fair. Ground resistances on this tank, by the way, do not hold the vehicle back whatsoever. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment on this vehicle? Well, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, 6th Sense, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Trap Mechanic, Clutch Braking, Rapid Aim, the Advanced Loader, the Gun Stabilizer, Vents. Vents to make everything about the vehicle just that little bit better. Again, we're maximising the accuracy during rotation and movement, the actual reload, the aim time. We're just making everything about the tank that little bit better, trying to eke out everything we can. The gun stabilizer to make the accuracy during movement and rotation as good as possible, and that's the same for all 3 gun perks, so that we can make this gun absolutely fabulous and have some sort of strength. Clutch braking to make the track traverse better, which again, because the track traverse is already so good, you might want to drop that and run something else like armor angling. It's quite easy. It's down to you and how you want to play the vehicle realistically. And then the rapid aim, because the turret traverse is not that great if you don't help it compared to your tracks, so always want to run the rapid aim on this vehicle. Oh, that was a shot. Pat on the back, me. Pat on the back. But yes, that was, you know, that's basically what I run on the tank, and that's, you can just change that up to little bits and bobs to how you want to play the vehicle, to be fair, as always with any tank in this game, because I play a fairly generic crew for an MBT in Cold War, and it makes the tanks feel very, very good. It makes them feel very mobile, makes the turret traverse nice, makes the gun handling great, it makes everything good. But you might be like, well, that annoys me about the tank, you know? So the fact that I get penned all the time, I want to just reduce the damage coming in, or I feel like my amorite gets damaged all the time, so I'll take safe stowage to make the amorite better. Crew get knocked out all the time, so I'm going to take pain tolerance to try and help the crew out, right? it's down to you and how you feel comfortable playing a vehicle. Those are always sort of the crews that I've run in it that are more, will make do for most situations, but you can specialise it a little bit more off of those and take it as sort of a template almost. So as you can see with the second replay, we ended up finishing with a pretty nice score again. We finished with the victory. 4 kills, 6.7k damage to 1584 assistance. And again, ace tanker with the Confederate for what was 1618 base XP, which isn't that much base XP. And for an Era 2 vehicle, 6.7k damage, you'd normally be expecting a second to a first class for any other tank. But for the TR-580, clearly it gets played quite badly. And 6 to 7k is an ace tanker for it. So we're on to the third replay, and now we are fully upgraded, and to be honest, just like most other Cold War vehicles, when you are fully upgraded, there's not much difference between being stock and fully upgraded, to be fair, because you've still got the same penetration on this Top Gun. Your DPM's got slightly better, up to 4.6k damage with a 5.69 second reload. Your axis during movement and rotation has gone to 0.56 and 1.31, and you've now got a 1.9 second aim time, which means that generally that is very, very nice. And your gun handling, your DPM is pretty good. And you've got some sort of strength in that regard. And you do feel the extra DPM, which is good. Obviously, the same as having the better top speed with the better engine. You just feel all those slight improvements. And you can have a good time with the TR-580. But like I say, it just becomes a struggle at times, this vehicle. Especially when other bigger, nastier tanks decide, yeah, you're just dead. And there's very little you can do at times. So this third replay is more the average game for the TR-580, and we are on Ruinberg. And on Ruinberg, we're just attacking this FV4211. We've loaded the premium rounds because, well, with the standard 376, it's not always a guarantee to go through a 4211, but 319 is going to, well, sorry, not 319, 419 is going to go through a 4211 in the drive wheel in the lower plate if we hit the right spot. With 376, we can go through the cupola because the cupola on the 4211 is a lot weaker now, so it's quite easy to pen. I mean, you can even pen it with autocannons from the term, from the 30Bs, you know, and they've got 90 odd penetration, so, or 89, something like that penetration, so yeah, that cupola on the 4211 is a lot weaker, and you don't really need to fire a premium item, but it does make it a bit more comfy in going through them. So we get shot into the Leopard 1, he shoots us, and we're up to 1788 damage with 1012 assistance. It's currently 10-11, which means that, make that 11-9, which means we're actually starting to lose right now. And we're closing down the middle of the map. We saw where there was an ELC at the end of the road, and I decided, okay, my team's pushing in on this right-hand flank, let's push in and try and get behind and kill the vehicles over here, help my team. There's no point going left and finding that most of their team are over there when all of my team are over here, because I'll end up going alone and, well, death will come swiftly, which won't be a good time. So we got rid of one ELC. The second ELC is going to take the ram, but oh, he just dodges it. Oh, that's a sad time, but we do finish him off with the shot. It's like, you're not escaping, no escape for you, and we get rid of him. So the light tank on our right is a BMP-1, but he gets shut down, so we know where the rest of their vehicles are. They're all on this left-hand side. So we're going to close in, try and get the tracking shot into the Leopard 1A1, and thankfully it did track him. It burns his repair kit, so now if we do track him, we'll end up tracking and penning him and keeping him pinned. The ELC SS-12 ends up being within 100 meters of us, because that was the doink sound you heard there, which means he was within 100 meters, his minimum arming distance kicked in, and he did basically nothing. We're now closing in on the Leopard 1 and the WZ-1224. So it's like, hello, Mr. Leopard. Oh, Mr. Leopard's dead. Oh, 224 is also dead. Okay, let's try and get to the TR-580, or is it the TR-125? Yeah, TR-580. Mr. TR-580 gets shut down because he loses all of his hit points. We're up to 3.8k damage, and this game has snowballed so fast. We just couldn't keep up with it. Aim the shot, put it into the ELC even SS-12, who is the last tank alive on the enemy team. And I'm like, please come back. I just want more damage. Hopefully get the shot in. There we go. 517. That's quite the roll there into that ELC SS-12. And he gets shut down by the odd FLT. And we finished the game with 4.6k damage, 1267 assistance damage. The epic victory with the 3 kills. A really nice game there for the TR-580. Well, first class, 1430 base XP is a first class. 1430 base XP isn't the most base XP in the universe. And we end up with the first class there for what was fairly average game damage-wise, to be perfectly honest, for the TR-580. And it showed it off, really, because as soon as we got any sort of pressure and people shot at us, they penned us. But if we managed to keep ourselves in a position where we weren't really the focus of people's attention and we would be able to use the pretty decent DPM this vehicle has with the nice gun, we're able to farm up a good amount of damage. And we're on to the fourth and final replay of this video, and we are on El Alamein, fully upgraded again, and we're going to try and charge down the K line using our good mobility that we have, because let's say 65.2 kilometers an hour is quite nice, and you generally get to about 60 realistically on flat. It goes between 60 and 65 depending on the terrain, and you can travel about quite nicely. It's something that's a bit of a difference between this and the TR-85 after it, because the TR-85 after it does actually have a slightly better top speed, but it just sort of struggles along to get to that top speed, and you sit there going, oh, come on, tank, please. You're supposed to be really quick, but you're not feeling it. But I digress, that's the next tank. The TR-580, we are going to go to this little ledge here. Why do I want to go to this ledge? Because I can shoot anyone that pushes too aggressively down the J line. I can also shoot back at where those light tanks are, and I can poke out on this little spot here to shoot people like the 4211, and any sort of light tank that decides to perk up at E4, E3, and try and fire ATGMs at us. But naturally, having 5 degrees of gun depression can be a little bit awkward for the TR-580. So we see the T10. We fire at him. Sadly, it misses, because I know with 376 pen, I could go through the gun manlet of the T10. 419 pen will go through the gun manlet of the T10, but we need to hit it first. The T80 in the distance, we're just trying to pixel shot the sides of the tank, and it's just not quite working out. Even though we've got 0.26 accuracy at 100 meters, which is a really accurate gun, it still, you know, decided it didn't want to hit it. The FV4211, thankfully for me, bounces off of my armor, and we get the shot straight through his lower plate. We see the Weasel and the light tanks are charging through behind us, so if we can get a cheeky shot into one of the Weasels, that'd be fantastic. But sadly, our shot goes low, and we missed that other Weasel, which, to be fair, it would have been a good job if we'd actually hit that guy at this range. So we hit the T10 in the side, and that's the one thing that is, sometimes it does, even though we've got good DPM, it does feel a little bit sad, especially when some of the tanks are hitting us far harder, and that is the 440 average damage that this tank has on these guns, which, yeah, it's a little bit low, because a lot of tanks are starting to hit you for 460, 480, 500, 550, and especially the Soviet-esque vehicles that do lack that gun depression and probably have similar-esque armor to you. Again, are hitting for like 550, and they hit like a truck. This tank hits for 440, it means it's got to expose itself more often to do more damage, and because you don't really have the armor, you will be bleeding your hit points pretty quickly with not dealing as much damage to them in return. And especially when you're coming against a lot of tanks that are mid to top era as well. They have way better DPM than you do, or similar to better DPM than you do, but hit you harder and have better pen, so they never struggle to pen you as well. Whereas you do have the problem, sometimes you go, that's a tank I can shoot, I can't pen it. I bounced repeatedly. Oh, come on, right? Which is why the entry era vehicles are always the case of just get past it. Get past it, get to the better tank, because when you do get to the stuff like the TR-85 and the TR-125, you do genuinely feel like you're playing the exact same tank as this, but just slightly better. And that's genuinely how it feels. So anyway, we are now on a little ridgeline. We've maneuvered ourselves into a good position to use our 5 degrees of gun depression, and we're just farming some shots into the 4211 and the T62. We finished off the T62 because I didn't want him to start shooting me in the side while I was trying to focus out the FV4211. We track and pen the 4211 there because we had the perfect angle on his side, but he pulls back behind the ridgeline, meaning we're not going to get any shots in. The T72A is being pressured by the Brennus, and it's like, hello, Mr. Brennus, I'm going to come and try and stop you hurting my friend. Put him down to a possible one-shot if we roll high enough, but sadly we don't. And he gets finished off with a ram by the T-72 Ural, who also dies for that ram. So we see the Weasel behind us. At the minute, it's 7-6. The game is supremely close. We see the Weasels behind us. The TD gets spotted behind us as well. So we're going to poke over, see if we can finish this Leopard that we knew was there, and get that gun out of the game, because getting the guns out of the game right now is the most important thing. So our friend's gone in on the 4211. We're going to go help him get rid of it, because we really need to get rid of that behemoth of a tank. Put a shot straight through the back. He gets finished off by the T-72A. We know there's an ELC on the other side. Again, if we can get rid of that pesky pest out of this game, that'd be great as well, because, well, we know what they're like at the minute. There's lots of them. They are very stealthy, in fact, probably too stealthy, if we're honest, and their ATGMs hit like a truck. So if we can get rid of the ELC, that's one less danger that we have to deal with. So we're just trying to hit him on the move, but it's not quite working out. But the ELC loops back round. It's like, Mr. ELC, if you're going to loop back round, that's fine, thank you. And we get the ramming speed into the ELC even SS12 there, finishing them off. The Weasel's gone in on our heavy tank. We really need to get rid of that guy as well, because the Weasel will just end up shredding everything if we're not careful. But obviously it's a bit awkward to go after in a tank like this, especially on playing on these ridge lines. So I'm just watching the corners. Thankfully their other ELC even SS12 dies. That's great for us. And there's the Weasel. It's like, are you going to come after me, Mr. Weasel? Okay, I will finish you. Oh, we missed. But don't worry, I've got good DPM. As we're trying to turn to go with it, but sadly, he ends up killing my gunner. I heal my gunner, and my gunner dies straight away after it with another, like, 20 damage. It's like, thanks, Mr. Weasel. He's constantly just penning us in the side, no problem whatsoever, as we're trying to keep up with him. But we've got a dead gunner, which makes it absolutely atrocious. We put a shot into the 30B, just aiming the shot to finish him off because we really need to get rid of him. Good night, Mr. Weasel. Get out the game. That annoying pest, Mr. Pest Control, at your service. TR-580. Just ring up 0800 00 TR-580. You know, we'll get rid of those pests for you. So, the 30B is on the ridgeline. I still have a dead gunner, which makes this extremely difficult to deal with, because look how bad the turret traverse is. If your gunner dies, your turret traverse goes with him, and it's incredibly awkward to be able to get the gun on target, and also means you are supremely inaccurate as well. But we finish off the 30B2, and our their BMP2 finishes off my platoon mate in the T-72A. We tried to track the BMP there. I didn't actually aim for the pen. I just wanted to track it so that it'd stop it dead in its tracks. But sadly, it didn't happen with the second shot. That is extremely good RNG to hit that guy, so we'll take it. We'll take it. This is also the best game I've had in this time, by the way. The BMP is trying to run. He stops to aim his ATGM. Thankfully, we go, I'm the chosen one! Neo! As I got out the way of the ATGM. Good night, Mr. BMP2, with the free aim shot, and we finished the game with a really nice total there for the TR-580. Like I say, the best game that I've actually had in this vehicle. We finish with the victory, 5 kills, 7,700 damage, with the 1,746 base XP. A really nice game there for the TR-580, with the Ace Tanker and the Confederate medal. And yeah, that's the TR-580. That's its stock, fully upgraded, but with the stock gun still. So you get 2 games with the stock gun and 2 games with it fully upgraded. Like I say, it's not the worst entry-era vehicle in the universe, but it's also just a bit of a struggle in a lot of matchups, and it's not realistically the most enjoyable tank in the universe. But it leads to the TR-85 or the T-72M, decide, you know, depending on which branch you want to go up. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
A great success!